Hey Libra. And it's our season. It's your season. And everybody loves to put labels on us. Everybody loves to think they know what it's like going into Libra season. Even we don't always know what's going to happen during Libra season. So right out of the gate, it's really important that you not let your guard down right away. Things are still shifting. We still have some retrogrades. Nothing is going terribly wrong. Nothing's going or overly dramatic yet. But it could have felt like the shift coming into Libra season can feel stressful, because in Virgo season, we feel like, depending on the person, you feel like you have to get so much stuff done. But what Virgo season teaches a Libra is that your season's coming. Yes, we know. And you really just need to do what you're capable of, of last season. Yes, push yourself to an extent. But other than that, like letting yourself let Virgo season work its way through you, right? So this season, it's not much different coming into it. The thing about it is that it's interesting because I feel like I like less noise coming into this season, right? And it's interesting because if you know a Libra, you know that there's something always buzzing around us or within us at like pretty much all times, or we're listening to something, or we have the music on while we're doing this. It's like when I cook or when I do certain things, I like to have something playing, something that makes sense for me in the background. Feeling, in my comfy clothes, or like something that I really like to lounge in the house with while I'm having those days. And then there are the days where it can feel very consuming in the mind, right? So with this season, what's important for you to do specifically is, so the Queen of Swords and then the Ace of Swords, it's very clear that whatever boundaries you've created, you need to stick to. Don't change them. Don't shift them. Actually, it's going to become very clear how much stronger you may need to make them, right? You may feel like coming into the season, you have your guard up a little bit to a certain extent. However, this is about you being able to stick to your guns. And this month is going to help you do that while you still have the beauty that you want, have the moments that you want. But right now, internally, what people don't know is, and there's funny, different ways of saying this about us, but it's true. Like, you have some stuff going on internally where even if you're out, or even if you're doing those Libra things or this fall season things to do, there's still these things processing within you. What would I say? Well, let them be and enjoy yourself while you can. But sometimes it can be difficult. What you're going through right now is this huge shift in your mind. And that's why the stability of the swords are really important. Because during a time where so much is changing and moving and you're seeing things very clearly, and you will be, especially in the next couple of weeks, not to get too far ahead already, but the next couple of weeks as we enter Scorpio season, it's very clear that you're beginning to see why this is happening, why the energy is so adamant right now. Like, you need to stay here. You need to stick to this. You need to be able to really transmute what's happening and what's going on with you. There could be a situation that's coming up internally. This could be something that comes up from, within, where you need to see it. You see it clearly, and it feels like you're going through a death. It feels like whatever is being brought up there's so many layers and dimensions for some of you, but so many layers to it that you need that Ace of Swords. Yes, you have the Queen of Swords, but you need that Ace of Swords as well. You need to be shown that. And if there's someone in your life who is showing that to you, it could be a Scorpio, it's really important that you not see it as something like they're just trying to stick their venom in you, or the person or the situation just trying to get you to be in your feelings. It's not true. It's actually going to, if you take it for what it is, it's actually going to unravel throughout the rest of the season and make things a lot clearer and easier for you. So another thing we need to dispel with Libras is, yes, we sometimes have a hard time making decisions about things, for sure. But a lot of times it's because we don't like the options that we have. So you need to create it almost out of thin air. And everyone, there's a lot of people who don't really understand that. And I'm going to be here to tell you that that's something that you do, and that's something that we do. We just create things out of thin air. So do Cancers. They do it in their own way. It's something to learn from them, for sure, because they have so much to teach us, and especially being a fellow cardinal sign. However, people don't realize that when you're actually in that zone and in this very vulnerable place where things are being, where you're all of a sudden feeling, you may have felt like trapped or some sort in the beginning, but those are those healthy things coming up around you so that you can break through the barriers of what's not healthy anymore, of what you need to get past, of what you need to go through, and what becomes a lot clearer after that. So those things are just helpful. Those walls are just helpful. Those boundaries are just helpful. And then as you go through, you realize why they were there. You realize why you needed them. It's very obvious. It's very clear to you. However, again, it's going to take some time. It's almost like you have this. So this is just, even when we get into the second part and the extended, which I'll tell now, the second part and the extended will be in a link below. They're kind of merged together now, where I get way more in depth in the readings, where we get in more in depth with these cards, especially because I know these have so much more to say. There are other cards that fell out. There will be information to work with me one-on-one below if you want a one-on-one reading. And my podcast is also below. There's a new episode coming out soon. So here you have it. All of this almost armor, but it's necessary armor, layers of it. And you're being seen so clearly this month, and you don't realize that, but ever since Virgo season, ever since last year, you've been preparing for this. But ever since last season, there's been some things that have brought you in the moment, brought you to these different parts of yourself, and you don't understand right now. So I don't blame you. If you're feeling undecisive about certain things, it's because you're changing. Like even your aesthetic, even I feel that way right now. Things that are changing, it's just best to let go. There's so much to be let go of in the physical world for Libras right now. This is not the physical world in this reading right now. We're in the internal world. We're into the depths. We're seeing things in a way where it's like, I'm going to relate it to this, and this might ruffle some feathers, but let's do it. So one of my favorite things is to see how, yes, faith is important. Spirituality is important. We can get in this conversation all day with me. And Libras know that. You may not all know it as deeply as you want. However, this moment is opening you up for that. Why? Well, you see everywhere in the media now, which is it's Gemini, but Hollywood, different angles of the media are also Libra, Aquarius too. The air signs are all influxed in there. Why? Because air is everywhere. There would be nothing without air and space, just saying. That makes us, regardless if we are doing the things that people assume us to be doing or not really giving a fuck about something that maybe we should be giving a fuck about, regardless, it's in the air. All of it's there. And we'll come to the realization, or we won't, or we'll have someone tell us. I was going to say kindly, but it's not always kind the way people share things, right? And that's okay. You try to do that. We try to do that. As a Libra, you try to do that. You try to be fair. But sometimes what you thought was fair was only fair because of the way you were looking at it before. It was only fair because it was the way that you were doing things before. That's because it was like the pattern you're in. It's like, this is what life has, and what you've been exposed to in life, but something else is changing, something else is opening up, things are shifting. You're realizing how much you're able to handle. And you're also realizing that you need to ask for help. Could be spiritual help. It could be guidance physically for spiritual help. But there's this deep discovery within yourself this month that you won't have the realization or epiphany for days to come. Coming into your season, you know there's something magical happening, and it doesn't have anything to do with the external world except for the fact that you see things differently. Yes, this happens to you over and over again, but this time it's different. There's something so much different happening with you right now, and these layers that are unraveling with you right now brings you to this place that, like, what if the scales were balanced? Something we neglect. Your reading's going to be a little longer. Some other things that we neglect about Libras, and we're going to talk about it because, you know, as a Libra, it's just like, I get what you're saying, and why am I only pinpointed in that one place, in that one position? Listen, when my scales are balanced, I could do anything like this. When I'm in like a peaceful zone, everything just starts to happen. And that's when the scales are balanced. And how often does that actually happen? And also, we're the only inanimate sign in the only inanimate object in the signs. Give us a little fucking credit. We're learning now to be a little more human. But you know what? From our point of view, being human is fucking hard. So why do you think we have been neglecting? And I know that's a whole other conversation, but like, not wanting to dive fully into it. Being 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I understand. However, we're all in now. Things are happening now. You'll see the magic that, if you've had magic before, and once you're all in, and if you've been one of those people who knows what happens when you go all in with something, and not in a way where it's consuming you, in a way where you have, you know, you have your control, you have your say, you have your peace, but you also have, so much luck with it because you choose it. It's just like the energy just keeps dragging along, like the air just keeps, you know, dispersing that seed for you, carrying this forward. And the more you realize how much you can handle, the more you realize how centered that makes you to an extent. So this is like, we're going to say like this is the two sides to the coins. To one side of the coin, you get so much deep insight this month, and so much comes out of you and these realizations that you have, that you become very aware of what's rocked you before, of what's rocked you maybe just recently, you know, if you're going through this actually now. And the reason why I say that in most readings, but especially your readings, is because time is so relative, and we all experience these similar things, but just at different times in our life. You know, we have one thing we can agree on is that we all have emotions. We all have the same emotions. They just come out differently, or deeper, or more expanded, or heightened, whatever you want to say. They all come out differently depending on who they are. For you, you're realizing why. This is a big one. This is a big one, guys. This month, you may realize why. First and foremost, you have this inner structure. So you have all this stuff going on inside you. You think of this idea. You want to do this. This is good. You're doing this while this is working in your mind. And while you're also healing this other part of yourself. And it's all happening. And you know it's all connected. But then there's these internal struggles of like, I want to do this and I want to do it. And your energy is being pulled by all these people and by your own self and by your own ideas. And what you neglect to remember is, like, when your mind's going like that, you start to get tired. You just tire yourself out by not just going into it for a little while. Go into the idea, write about it, do the things that you need to do in order to understand what this is, expand upon the idea, expand upon what's being shown to you, and getting really clear about what it is that you are bringing. Because yes, you could be a Libra who has done amazing things and has become very successful, which is a very relative thing. It's very different for everyone. This is something I understand. However, there's a part of you that is because of this deeper connection that you're having with yourself. You realize that there's a stability and there's a peace when you're in the right motion. There's a peacefulness. You don't feel like you need to be somewhere else. If you feel like you need to be somewhere else or your mind somewhere else, do that. Go there. Why? Because you're just always being led. That's your intuition. That's one of the things as intuition as a Libra, right? If I don't work out or do something with my body before I do something, before I even speak, sometimes it's so heady that I can say so much without the feeling being attached to it. I can just share information. And it could be about my life. It could be about something that is emotional. It could be about something that is extremely heavy or dense or full of substance. But the way it comes out is I'm so disconnected from this space that it's just blah, 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 blah. And it's great. It's cool that I know and that you know all this stuff as a Libra. However, that substance is really important to connect with other people. And if that's what you're wanting to do, especially if you're expanding or if you're wanting to do more, this is a very personal time for you. This is a very personal time for what you're going through. And to be quite honest with you, you might want to spend a lot of time alone this month. You might want to go for walks alone. You might want to do certain things on your own this month where you can just feel into what's happening instead of thinking and like reasoning with it. Just feeling it out and feeling the magic that your season brings. Because what's better than that when you can tap into that as a Libra? Like, then you get to carry it out. It's stronger in your season, absolutely. And you can help so many people with this. But we've talked about this almost year after year in your season where there might be people who want to get your attention maybe by fighting with you or getting into discussions that can heat you up, but you're not there anymore. You're like, I'm not going to get riled up about something that's actually where it feels like you're just trying to take me out of this peaceful place that I've been trying to get to for a long time, or what I've been feeling. And instead allowing whatever feelings arise in you, whatever you really, really needs to come out, and putting it towards something that you're working on, involving it in your art somehow, doing something that you find to be important. I think that could be a great way to utilize whatever strikes a chord with you this month. Or whoever. If someone triggers you, I know that you can do this and I know this is hard, so this is a lot to ask of you. And some of you do it without even realizing it. But if someone strikes a chord with you this month, notice how you communicate back to them. You know, if you're not in a place where you feel like you can respond in a way that's more mature, emotionally mature, and understanding the full spectrum of the situation, I would say don't respond right away then. Take a few moments, take a few days, maybe understand like where you're at, where they're at. But some of you may be in a space where you're very connected to your intuition and you just respond in a way that is extremely relative to the situation. You might even strike other people's chords, but not in a way that's harmful. You know that you're always coming from a place of helpfulness, but that can also be to your detriment sometimes. So this month is really about seeing yourself through. You're kind of this whole top row, which we'll get into in the second part, extended, is really about seeing yourself through all of this. Like, you're not pulling yourself through anymore. You're not making yourself do things that you've been expected of for a long time. This is more about what you really need. And again, we've talked about this over and over again, but each layer brings something different. What do you really need? What do you need now? What can you actually handle? And being really honest with yourself right now, what you can actually handle and what you have been preparing to handle. So another thing is that a lot of people do different rituals before they get ready for sessions, or like having a client, or doing even their own stuff. However, when your life is this constant ritual, which most of you can relate to, about being a good person, doing the best that you can, cleaning up this here, doing this here, taking care of yourself, feeding, having the momentum and the mechanisms and the right things to move forward. And yet, and correct me if you have not been in this place, but sometimes when that's not enough, then you're like, well, what is it? It's about connecting to what's important to yourself. And if you don't know what's important to yourself, now's a good time to explore, to give yourself a peace of mind by putting down the thing that's made you aggravated or irritated, and giving yourself time. Because if you give yourself time, then you're not taking away from yourself. You're not constantly trying to be adamant about something that's actually taking away your time, where if you took your mind off of it, and there are a lot of people who say this, you take your mind off of it, something can totally shift in that space, right? So you're coming back to yourself in a way that's extremely powerful for you this month. And I think more than ever, what the cards are saying is they want you to be aware of it. They want you to be here. They want you to be present with it. That's been my main reminder, is being present. And I hope I finished that point of being present, because allowing anyone to take you out of your momentum in your month, if you can handle it, great. But if you know that you can't handle that war, that battle, don't fucking do it right now. Don't do it. Do what you can handle. If you don't know what you can handle and you have to ask yourself that question, most likely you can handle it. And back to my point, you hear a lot of people out here in the spiritual community saying all of these things, but the thing that happens if we don't go deeper with that layer in the general culture, because everyone has these moments now and it's coming up a lot, which is great. I'm not saying that I love it. It's great to hear it. It's great that it's happening. However, when something gets in the mainstream and is a very general thing in the culture, it can tend to stay in the same layer for years and years and years and years. And what is that? That can be very Libran. That can be very air sign, because we can move on intellectually, no problem. But if the feeling's lingering, or if something's lingering and we don't even notice, it'll come up. Like, oh, that's why this has been the same conversation, or that's why this has been the same problem forever. You know what I'm saying? So what you're going through is a whole shift, and you'll start to see things differently, and you'll begin to realize why the layers are very important, which is also fall, and we add layers, right? So there's nothing wrong with layering up in terms of giving yourself what you really need to see yourself through this, to keep the momentum, but not burn yourself out. And what's going to help you is remembering that the more that you choose this, is the more that you're going to gain the keen insight that it's going to become very clear to you what's been holding you back from emotionally growing. And that's all tied together this month. By the end of the month, it'll feel like, yeah, you did go through a birthday month, and it will feel celebratory, but in a way that is so much more rich and profound for you, where it's like a whole new life. It's a whole new time. It's a whole new chapter book. It's a whole new entry gateway to what's possible for you and what you're capable of. And it's important not to rush it. In a couple weeks, you'll understand what I'm saying, I hope. All right, Libra? I love spending time. I could talk to you for a lot longer too, but we'll get into the extended and second part, which will be in a link below on Patreon. Information to work with me one-on-one is there, and happy motherfucking birthday. I love you.